So this is 8 solid minutes of pretty useless EU4 tips. They'll be listed from most to least obvious, so you can rate yourself on the scale of EU4 knowledge. I'll also be giving out ratings for tips based on their usefulness, so let's get into it. If you get free stability from an event, consider raising the stability first and only then accepting the event. That way, you'll be able to avoid the extra 50% stability cost and save 50 admin points. This tip can be applied to any game at any stage, so it deserves an 8 out of 10. The next tip is to be careful with your army composition. Even if your cavalry to infantry ratio says it is 50%, that doesn't mean you can have cavalry as half the army. The game calculates the ratio even throughout the battle, and since infantry is deployed in the middle, it will die first. So always have less cavalry than your ratio allows, or none at all. Not really a tip, just essential knowledge. So, 10 out of 10. There's an event that happens in 1444 in every single game, where the first Christian power to conquer a non-Christian Gaul will get a massive 50% goods produced in that province. Therefore, it's really nice to conquer the Gaul province ASAP whilst playing as Castile or Portugal, for example, and beat the AI to it. Again, useful to know and easy to take advantage of.
Gold?
So it's a 9 out of 10. Did you know that your starting mana is just your monthly mana generation at the start of the game, multiplied by 14? Well, now you know. Good to know if you're planning an early game wars in multiplayer, as a good ruler means more than just mana generation at that point. Cool to know, but otherwise not really useful. I would give it a 6 out of 10. Leave 1k stacks on your border forts, so that if you ever get attacked by anyone, you can immediately react and scorch the earth. Instead of panicking, fighting on a defensive fort with a scorched earth is incredibly powerful, as the enemy will suffer extra attrition and will take a while to reinforce. While we are at it, don't forget about scorching the earth. It's a very powerful mechanic in EU4. This tip is an absolute must-do in EU4 multiplayer, unless you are playing with mods that have banner like mercenaries, in which case you can try to react to it. In single player, however, it's pretty useless, so I'd rate it as a shaky 7 out of 10. Have you ever seen Ottomans get gems in Constantinople instead of plain glass? Well, I'm here to tell you how it works. It's a pretty simple event called faceting, with a few requirements. First, you need to have a province that has either glass or gems as a trade good, no coal allowed, and that has at least 15 development. Then, whoever embraces the Renaissance first and has 50 prestige triggers the event. You get the gems as a trade good along with some pretty decent modifiers, such as extra goods produced and trade value, as long as increasing the cost of gems from 3 to 5. It can only happen once per campaign, and it could be any province as long as it's not Venice. Not really sure why. It can be easily done as France, England or Burgundy, with Caen and Liège provinces, as well as Bohemia and Castile if you take Barcelona. However, it usually happens in either Siena or Constantinople, as they almost automatically fulfill the requirements, so be hasty and try to snatch it. I'm personally a big fan of the event, so I'd rate it as a good 8 out of 10. It's really fun to try to screw the Ottomans. There's a trick to annex your vassals during the war. Before declaring a war, simply turn on the scutage in the subjects menu. The vassals won't be called into the wars, and voila, you can annex your vassals during a war. It's really useful as Muscovy, France, and especially Timurids in the early game, as annexing vassals on time is really important. Keep in mind though that you need to be 100% sure that you want to do this trick, as turning on scutage on and off well, it's not really good. So be careful. I'll rate this tip as a solid 9 out of 10. Quite situational, but very useful. If you happen to be playing Timurid in vanilla multiplayer, for whatever reason, it's absolutely golden. If you have a trade node that flows only in one direction, you should not place your merchant there. That's because the trade will anyways move in that direction, and you will only gain extra income thanks to the transfer trade power in your main node, a whopping 2 trade power from the merchant, and trade steering. So it's usually more efficient to place your merchant where you can actually steer the trade toward you. A good example would be Kazan node while playing as Russia, or Lubik when playing as England. A bonus point if the other option, for example, Champagne, Rhineland or Saxony, is an inland node, as you can get much more trade power thanks to the caravan power. You get additional trade power that scales with your development, and up to 50 trade power if you have 300 plus development. I think this is very useful for maximizing trade and being efficient, so I'd rate it as a 10 out of 10. I use it every game.
Hello, I like money.
I saved the best for last, the absolute most overpowered tip that even pro players with thousands of hours forget about. During the start of the Age of Reformation, go to your economy tab and turn off the war taxes, for God's sake. It's an absolute waste of meal points and should never be used. I know some of you watching forgot to do so go ahead and fix that abomination ASAP. I'm watching you.
I'm watching you.
The last tip for today is also related to trade. Don't think too much about what is the best option and simply try out all of them to figure out what works for you. EU4 trade is quite complicated, so you never really know how it will turn out. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, please tell me if you discovered something new today. I'm always glad to hear that. That's all I could think about before making this video, but I'll sure as hell make another one if I remember something else. So follow for more and find out new tips from the video over here.